Captain Vrell'nix stared at the tactical display with three of his eyes, while his fourth watched the structural integrity warnings flash across the wall. Not good. Actually, scratch that. This was monumentally, spectacularly, apocalyptically bad. How long until the Krethik swarm breaches the inner shields? He asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. 14 minutes, replied Officer Tenna, her voice somehow maintaining that professional calm that all good officers perfected right before everything went to absolute hell. Maybe 12 if they bring up those plasma cutters again. Vrell'nix clicked his mandibles together in frustration. Around him, the bridge of the Salvation's Hope looked less like the command center of the Galactic Council's finest battlecruiser and more like a disaster zone after a particularly enthusiastic explosion. Sparks cascaded from overhead panels. Half the crew nursed injuries ranging from minor burns to concerning amounts of purple blood loss. The air recyclers wheezed like an elderly Brontax trying to climb stairs. Behind them, 3 colony ships carried 40,000 civilians. Families. Children. The last survivors of the Quellan home worlds after the Krethik had decided that this particular corner of the galaxy looked tasty. Options. Vrell'nix demanded, turning to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Morvik's scales had gone pale, which was never a good sign. Honestly, sir, we're out. Weapons at 15%. Shields failing. Engines couldn't outrun a cargo freighter at this point. We've sent distress calls to every council fleet within range. And the nearest response is 4 days away. Fantastic. Vrell'nix felt his secondary stomachs twist. For days. They had maybe 14 minutes. Science Officer Plena cleared her throat. Well, technically she didn't have a throat, but she made that gurgling sound that served the same purpose. Sir, there is one possibility. Every head on the bridge turned toward her. When you're out of options, even the terrible ones start looking appealing. Go ahead, Vrell'nix said. Sector 7 actually has a potential response team. Very close. Maybe 2 hours away. Hope, that dangerous and stupid emotion, flickered in Vrell'nix's chest. Which fleet? Not a fleet exactly. Plena's tentacles writhed nervously. More like, well, them. The bridge went silent except for the various alarms and the distant thunder of weapons fire against their dying shields. Them. Vrell'nix repeated slowly. You mean them? The ones from the quarantine zone? The ones the council voted 17 times to avoid at all costs? The species that the Horthax Dominion declared too unstable for contact? Those maniacs. The humans, yes sir. Absolutely not. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered. Someone screamed from Deck 3. The structural integrity display helpfully updated to show that the forward hull now had what engineers called a serious ventilation problem and what everyone else called a giant hole. 10 minutes until breach. Tenna announced as Vrell'nix looked at the view screen showing the colony ships behind them. Inside those vessels, families huddled together. Parents held their children. The elderly told stories to keep everyone calm. They trusted him to save them. And he had exactly 0 good options. Tell me about the humans, he said quietly. Plena pulled up a file that the council had marked with approximately 47 different warnings. They're from a death world called Earth. Gravity 1.3 times standard. Toxic atmosphere for most species. They evolved as persistence predators, pack hunters with absolutely no sense of self-preservation when someone they care about is threatened. That sounds bad. It gets worse, sir. They have this thing they call adrenaline. It's a combat stimulant their own bodies produce during stress. Makes them faster, stronger, angrier. They're also the only known species that deliberately seeks out danger for entertainment. Why would anyone do that? No one knows, sir. Their psychology is bizarre. They form emotional attachments to almost anything, including machines, plants, and small animals that cannot possibly reciprocate. They also invented something called sarcasm, which is lying for social bonding purposes, except everyone knows it's lying. But that somehow makes the bonding stronger. Vrell'nix's head hurt. Are they at least reasonable? Well, Plena's tentacles twisted together. They have a saying. Don't mess with someone's kids, pets, or planet. Do any of those 3 things, and they become, quote, absolutely feral. 8 minutes, Tenna said. The captain looked at the colony ships again. At the children inside. At the families who had already lost everything once. Sometimes you had to make the terrible choice. Send the transmission, Vrell'nix ordered. Encrypted on human frequencies. Tell them we have civilians under attack. Tell them we're out of time. Tell them," he paused, considering. "Tell them we need help. And that there are children aboard." Plena worked her console. "Message sent, sir." Now they waited. Vrell'nix watched the Krethik swarm closing in like hungry shadows against the stars. Watched his shields flicker and fade. Watched everything he'd sworn to protect hanging by the thinnest possible thread. His communications officer suddenly sat up straight. "Sir, we're getting a response. Audio only. It's very short. Play it." The message crackled across the bridge speakers. A human voice, female, with an accent that suggested chewing rocks might be enjoyable. 3 words in that bizarre Earth language, followed by translation. "Hold on tight." Then another voice, male, laughing. Actually laughing. "This is gonna be fun." The transmission ended. Vrell'nix felt his scales prickle with an emotion he couldn't quite name. It was somewhere between terror and hope, with a solid dash of what in the name of the void did we just do. 5 minutes to breach, Tenna announced. The captain settled into his chair and watched the stars. Either salvation was coming, or they'd just called down something worse than the Krethik. Either way, they were about to find out exactly why the Galactic Council had quarantined humanity in the first place. The next 4 minutes were the longest of Vrell'nix's life. The Krethik swarm pressed closer, their bioships pulsing with that sick greenish light they used to melt through hull plating. His shields were now at 7%. 6. 5. The colony ships behind him had gone completely dark to conserve power, which meant 40,000 souls were sitting in the blackness of space, praying to whatever gods still listened. "Sir, the forward shield just collapsed," Morvik reported, his voice tight. "They're cutting through Deck 12. We have maybe 2 minutes before they reach the civilian sections." Vrell'nix gripped his command chair hard enough to dent the armrests. 2 minutes. The humans had said hold on tight 4 minutes ago. They weren't coming. This was it. He'd bet everything on a species of lunatics who probably thought the whole situation was hilarious, and now 40,000 people would pay for his desperation. "Captain." Plena's voice cracked with something that might have been excitement or horror. Possibly both. Massive energy spike detected. Bearing 047. Distance 30,000 kilometers and closing fast. Very fast. Impossibly fast, actually. Krethik reinforcements. "Negative, sir. The signature is wrong. It's, oh ancestors preserve us, it's human." On the view screen, space simply tore open, not folded like proper FTL travel, not phased like quantum gates, just ripped apart like someone had taken a knife to reality itself and decided the laws of physics were more like friendly suggestions. A hole appeared in the universe, spitting out a ship that had absolutely no business existing. The human vessel looked like someone had welded a weapons factory to an engine core and then covered the whole thing in armor plating thick enough to stop a comet. It bristled with so many guns that Vrell'nix lost count after 40. The hull was painted matte black with white lettering that the translator helpfully rendered as Orbital Reckoning, followed by smaller text reading "Second chances are our specialty." "That thing just violated about 19 laws of physics getting here," Plena whispered. Added to their tab, Vrell'nix muttered, "The human ship didn't slow down. Didn't hail. Didn't do any of the sensible things a rescue vessel should do. Instead, it accelerated directly into the Krethik swarm while every weapon system lit up simultaneously. What followed wasn't a battle. It was an education in violence. The humans opened fire with kinetic accelerators that turned Krethik bioships into expanding clouds of organic debris. They launched missiles that corkscrewed through the swarm like angry metal serpents, each one finding a target with disturbing precision. Some kind of directed energy weapon, purple and crackling, simply erased entire sections of the enemy formation. "Are they supposed to have that much firepower?" Morvik asked, staring at the tactical display. "No species is supposed to have that much firepower," Vrell'nix replied. "The Council banned weapons of that yield after the Horthax incident. Should we tell them that? I think right now I'm okay with them breaking some rules." The Krethik, to their credit, tried to adapt. They swarmed the human vessel from all sides, attempting their usual tactic of overwhelming through sheer numbers. It worked against every other species in the galaxy. It did not work against humans. The orbital reckoning spun on its axis, somehow managing to look graceful despite being shaped like a flying brick, and deployed something new. Point defense systems erupted across its hull, creating a spherical barrier of tracer fire that shredded anything that got close. A Krethik ship managed to latch onto the hull, preparing to cut through. The humans ejected that entire section of armor plating. Just blew it off into space, Krethik still attached, then shot it with a missile for good measure. They're insane, Tenna breathed. Thank the ancestors for that, Vrell'nix said. His communications panel chirped. The human ship was hailing them. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terran Emergency Response Corps. Sorry we're late. Ran into traffic. You folks okay over there? Vrell'nix fumbled for the transmit button. We are now, Commander. Thank you for whatever this is. This. He could hear the grin in her voice. This is just us getting warmed up. Hey Marcus, how many bogies left? Another voice, the male one from before. Sensors say about 200. Want me to deploy the drones? Nah, let's keep this personal. Reroute power to forward guns. I want to try that new plasma configuration. You mean the one engineering said would melt our targeting systems? That's the one. Cool. Activating now. The front of the human ship began to glow. Not the sickly green of Krethik bioweapons. This was the bright, clean white of a star being born. Energy built and built until Vrell'nix's sensors screamed warnings about radiation levels. Then the humans fired a lance of pure plasma tore through space, burning a corridor through the Krethik swarm. Ships simply vaporized. Others spun away, hulls glowing red-hot. The beam lasted 3 seconds. When it faded, the Krethik formation had a hole you could fly a station through. Marcus, remind me to buy engineering a drink. Already making the list, boss. The remaining Krethik, finally showing some survival instinct, began to retreat. The humans let them go, though Vrell'nix noticed they kept their weapons locked on until the enemy was well out of range. The orbital reckoning moved into position between the Salvation's Hope and the colony ships, a metal guardian standing watch. Vasquez's voice came through again, softer now. We're sending over repair crews and medical teams. Our doc says to tell you're injured we've got universal synth plasma and trauma kits. Also, we brought food. Real food, not that emergency ration garbage. Kids especially need proper meals after something like this. Vrell'nix felt something suspiciously like moisture gathering in his eyes. Commander, you came through an unstable jump point, violated every treaty in the books, and probably used enough ammunition to bankrupt a small planet. What? There was a pause. When Vasquez spoke again, her voice carried something ancient and fierce. You said there were children. Back on Earth, we have a rule. You don't mess with kids. Anyone's kids. Doesn't matter if they've got scales, tentacles, or 3 eyes. You threaten children, you get us. All of us. And we don't stop until everyone's safe. That seems, forgive me, impractical. Oh, it's completely impractical. Expensive too. Command yells at us about the budget every time. But here's the thing about humans, Captain. We're persistence hunters, remember? We don't give up. We don't leave people behind. And we really don't like bullies. Morvik was checking his sensors. Sir, I'm reading 3 more human ships arriving. Heavy cruiser class. Just in case, Marcus chimed in cheerfully. Elena tends to shoot first and check ammo counts later. It's called being thorough, Marcus. It's called being trigger-happy, says the man who wanted to deploy drones. Vrell'nix listened to the humans bicker over the comm channel while their repair crews began docking procedures. Around him, his bridge crew was smiling. Actual smiles. Some were crying. Tenna was hugging Plena, which was complicated given their different anatomies, but somehow working anyway. Outside, the human ships maintained their protective formation, Shujur-S standing watch in the dark. Crazy, violent, wonderful guardians who crossed the galaxy because someone said children were in danger. The Galactic Council was going to have words about this. Lots of words. Probably angry ones that Vrell'nix discovered he didn't care even a little bit. Commander Vasquez, he said, once we're stable, I'm buying your entire crew whatever beverage humans consider celebratory. Beer. The answer is beer. Lots of beer. Fair warning though, Captain, humans can drink most species under the table. It's another one of our questionable talents. After today, I believe you could do anything. Vasquez laughed, warm and genuine. Stick around, Captain. We're just getting started. The galaxy's a big place, and it turns out there's a lot of bullies who need reminding that humans really hate bullies. Vrell'nix looked at the colony ships, lights beginning to flicker back on as human repair crews worked their magic. 40,000 lives saved by the galaxy's most dangerous species. By the lunatics everyone feared. By the pack hunters who had taken one look at a desperate situation and said hold on tight like it was the easiest promise in the universe. Maybe, he thought, the Galactic Council had quarantined the wrong species. Maybe what the galaxy needed wasn't more rules and treaties and careful diplomacy. Maybe what it needed was more humans. And if that thought terrified and comforted him in equal measure, well, that seemed appropriately human too. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.